Hey there, everyone. Welcome to Speak Now Pro Wrestling. I'm your host, Denise Salcedo, and today is October 8th, which means we got two shows to talk about. We got WWE Smackdown, which included the new season premiere. It kickstarted the Queen's Crown tournament and the King of the Ring. Additionally, we had 1 hour of AEW Rampage, so we have plenty to get into here today. Also, before I get started, I do want to apologize to everybody here on YouTube because I made a boo-boo. So I accidentally scheduled my stream an hour before. I accidentally scheduled it for the Wednesday times instead of the Friday time. And I just completely forgot. So I do want to apologize to everybody that probably came on here and was like, where the hell is Denise? Yes, I scheduled it an hour earlier, but good news on the Twitch end of things. So if you guys were here on Wednesday, you guys all know that I only went live on YouTube and I didn't go live on Twitch. Well, good news, all of that has been resolved and I am officially simulcasting now on both streams. So we are good to go on that. And so guys, we got so much to talk about, but first and foremost, I want to welcome everybody here onto the show. Thank you guys so much for always tuning in and, just being here, having a good time. So we got so much to talk about because a lot kind of went down on SmackDown and quite a bit went on AEW Rampage. So normally I usually kick off with Rampage, but I think this time I'm going to go ahead and get started with SmackDown because there's just so much news to get into there that I want to make sure I get that all out there before we move on to Rampage. So we're going to go ahead and start with SmackDown and then do Rampage. Also, please make sure to take part in the chat. This is a very interactive show, so I will be reading all of your thoughts and your comments. If you want to make sure your comment gets read on the air, you can always send in a super chat, and that's where we're going to get things started. We're actually going to get started with our first super chat of the evening, and this is from Heidi Ho 77, who says, I'm watching live and sober this week, Alameo. Thanks for helping me get unblocked by SRS. You are welcome, Heidi Ho 77. Thank you so much for sending in a super chat and for tuning in to this show. Alrighty, everybody. So let's get to it. Let's kick things off with SmackDown, the season premiere. This was an interesting show. First and foremost, it was an interesting show. And by that, I mean is that the show flew by. Do not get me wrong. The show flew by. By the time the show was over, for some reason, I thought we still had an additional hour to go. And then I was like, oh my God, the 2 hours already went by. I got to move on. I got to change the channels. I got to go watch Rampage now. So the show flew by a lot, really fast. However, there were a lot of decisions that were made on today's show that kind of had you questioning things that I necessarily wasn't that big of a fan of. And there were some things that happened where I'm just kind of like, oh, I don't know. That doesn't seem like that wasn't the prediction that, I had going into this. And then additionally, we had some good stuff that came out of this and some stuff that are being announced for next week's SmackDown as well. So we got so much to get into. We got a funny comment. This one is from Sticker Reds 202 over on Twitch, who says, any week I watch all 3 hours of Raw. SmackDown flies by quick. Well, I definitely watch SmackDown. Watch all 3 hours of Raw, and I watch live too. So I go through the commercials and everything. So Raw is definitely a longer chunk of time that I take up of my day than obviously SmackDown. But here we go. Let's get into this. So we kick off with the contract signing. Now, there really isn't much to really say about this. As you all know, we're getting the SmackDown Women's Championship defended over at Crown Jewel. That is going to be Becky Lynch defending her title against Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair. This kind of went down the way that all contract signings go down. Nothing really to me of interest other than the fact that we saw Bianca Belair essentially just display her impressive strength and her impressive power that she has, because she literally lifted up both Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch at the exact same time. Now, a lot of you are probably like, oh, Denise, that's not a big deal. That's not a big deal because she's lifted Otis and she's lifted Dolph Ziggler. And then Lance Storm left me a comment on Twitter and told me that she's also lifted him. And I get it. It's not a big deal. Those guys are a lot heavier, right? But it does look visually impressive when you're seeing her lift up two people at the exact same time. So color me impressed. I was definitely impressed by this. Now, they did not end up signing the contract. After we see Bianca Belair lift both of them over her shoulders. Sasha Banks ends up like sliding off, and then she ends up like on the table. And then we see Bianca Belair do the kiss of death on Becky Lynch onto Sasha Banks onto the table. So it was a really great visual. And Bianca Belair was really the one that kind of came out winning out of that, because I was just so impressed with her. But other than that, there's not really that much to add other than it was your everyday contract signing. So here we go, guys. And let's go ahead and jump into, all right, so I'm going to pull up a list here of let me get here we go. I'm trying to get your entrance here because I wrote them down and for some reason I didn't transfer them onto my actual notes. But here we go. So let's talk about the King of the Ring entrance. So here we go. For the King of the Ring bracket, we had Rey Mysterio versus Sami Zayn. We're having Cesaro versus Finn Balor, Kofi Kingston versus Jinder Mahal, and Xavier Woods versus Ricochet. Obviously, you guys already know that the fan favorite is Xavier Woods. So that is like everybody wants Xavier Woods to win. If he doesn't win this, I will be completely and utterly shocked. So the first round one match that we saw for the King of the Ring was Sami Zayn versus Rey Mysterio. And this was a perfectly fine match. This was a good match to get started. However, we did see Rey Mysterio lose due to Dominic's interference, which kind of took away from the ending, but whatever. To be honest, I'm still like, I just feel I'm not completely sold on this like whole Dominic story. It's kind of just gotten like a little bit tiresome to see each and every single week. They really need to spice things up with Dominic and Rey Mysterio. So I've lost a dramatic amount of interest in the story that they've been telling with the Mysterios. I've kind of just been like out of it on this one. So either way, we see him cost the match for his dad. And so Sami Zayn takes the win. Now, here's the thing, and this is one of the things that I ended up sharing on Twitter, is that right away when I saw that Sami Zayn won this match and that he was going to go into the next round either to face Cesaro or Finn Balor, immediately I knew that Sami Zayn is not going to be essentially making it to the finals. And the reason for that, as many of you know, due to it being in Saudi Arabia, he is not allowed to go to Saudi Arabia because of his Syrian descent. So he cannot go to Saudi Arabia. And I had a lot of people that were very confused in the comment section where they were saying that he chooses not to go. He legitimately cannot go. Like the Saudi government it was reported that these 2 years ago, the Saudi government literally made sure that he could not be on that show. So because of that, it was kind of a little bit predictable where you already knew, okay, Sami Zayn isn't going to take it all the way to the finals. He isn't going to be in Saudi Arabia. So that's a little bit of the kind of a controversy sort of deal that we saw here unfold on SmackDown, but I guess it is what it is now. But anyway, so we do see Sami Zayn moving forward. Later on, we do get Cesaro versus Finn Balor, which is a really great match. This was probably the best match of the night. Finn Balor ends up winning this match, but we had some really good moments here. We got a nice, uppercut from Cesaro. The second he hit the uppercut for a second, I thought that it was going to be over during this, but we ended up going to commercial. And then afterwards we come back, we see a superplex from Cesaro. We see him get him in the crossface, but eventually we do see Finn Balor win. So it is going to be Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn. And my best bet is that Finn Balor is going to go ahead and win this one, guys. I think he's definitely making it all the way to the finals. So there you go. That is on the side of the men's King of the Ring, obviously. So guys, what did you think of this? Go ahead and send in your thoughts. How did you feel about the King of the Ring tournament and the people that were announced for the brackets here? And let's see what we got here. And this one is from DTA Podcast over on Twitch, who says, the fact that we're still talking about Sami being banned from Saudi Arabia and his company works for condoning is really sad. Yeah, obviously it's not like if somebody is not allowed to go into another country, I mean, like it's not a good look whatsoever. Like there's no sugarcoating it. It's not a good look, honestly. And here we go. We got so many different comments here today. This one is from Leonard Aarons III, who says, Folks need to seriously temper their expectations with this tournament, especially with the finals being over in Saudi Arabia. If your favorite doesn't want to go over, they're probably not winning. So I think in terms of who we're seeing move forward right now in the tournament, I would not be surprised. Again, I already told you Finn Balor is definitely going to the finals, and I think it's going to be Finn Balor and hopefully Xavier Woods, but I have a feeling it could even be like Jinder Mahal. I think that might be an option because just because the fans want Xavier Woods and Xavier Woods wants Xavier Woods doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to happen. Also, looking at this bracket, though, I kind of want to see in a friendly competition Kofi Kingston versus Xavier Woods because that's something that we know we're not necessarily gonna get. I think if they do it like in a friendly competition sort of way for this tournament, I think it would be a really nice gem and the fans would be interested in seeing this match. At least just kind of like, I think it would be fun. Honestly, I really, really think it would be fun. So hopefully we see it here. But we got a lot of people here just rooting for Xavier Woods here. And I think for the most part, we're all on the same page. This is a comment from Pomi Wrestling who says, the King of the Ring side of the tournament looks mostly promising, but I struggle to get interested in any feud or match that takes place in Saudi Arabia. We got a super chat from Heidi Ho 77 who says, I think it's obvious Dewdrop and Baszler are winning Monday night to move forward and face each other in the tournament. So we'll get to the Queen's Crown tournament in just a second. We'll talk about that because there's a lot of different things to touch on when it comes to the Queen's Crown tournament because it wasn't necessarily what I think a lot of people were hoping for. And we'll get into that shortly here. And this is a comment from Drew Scott who says, Denise, you're thinking logically with Woods versus Kofi. Too bad Vince thinks the exact opposite. Yeah, maybe I'm thinking a little bit too logical. I don't know. All right, here we go. Let's get into the Queen's Crown tournament. So the first match, before I announce the first match that we had, I'm actually going to announce the participants here announced for the Queen's Crown tournament. And the entrants and the brackets include Toni Storm versus Zelina Vega, Carmella versus Liv Morgan, Dewdrop versus Natalya, and Dana Brooke versus Shayna Baszler. So Shayna Baszler and Liv Morgan, I would say, were probably the fan favorites going into this tournament just because people either want to see, obviously, the Queen of Spades take this, or they want to see Liv Morgan, who's essentially been, just casted aside, never getting that big push that we're all expecting for her. So I think a lot of people want to see that eventually happen for Liv Morgan. And it doesn't look like it's happening, especially after today. So we kick things off with Zelina Vega versus Toni Storm. All right. So one of the tweets that I posted today that kind of blew up, and it was because a lot of people, obviously, if you're watching the show, you know that the women aren't necessarily getting enough time. This match went, ladies and gentlemen, it legitimately went 2 minutes and 13 seconds. 2 minutes and 13 seconds for Zelina Vega versus Toni Storm. Now, Toni Storm's SmackDown run has necessarily not been the greatest. She had a match in July, and then we didn't literally see her again until September, and she's been sort of MIA. They haven't given her an actual story or anything like that. They promoted her for like a good hot minute when she was going over to SmackDown, and then kind of just did nothing with that whatsoever. And so we do see this very quick match in which Zelina wins with the code red and Toni Storm loses. This is something that I don't think a lot of people were expecting because even looking at the bracket the second they were announced, I think a lot of people were expecting to see Toni Storm versus Shayna Baszler in the finals, and that's definitely not the direction that they were going in. Now, in terms of storyline and what we've been seeing on TV, even though Toni Storm was a fan favorite to win, because we haven't seen her on TV nearly as much, I totally get why they gave this win to Zelina Vega. Like, I totally get it. But at the same time, I personally was hoping that the Queen's Crown tournament would be used to sort of propel one of the women that necessarily hasn't been, in a top position, to propel them into, another spot on the roster, and to be seen as more important. And somebody that really, really needed it is Toni Storm. So I am very surprised that they sort of just like eliminated her legitimately in the first round. And instantly, the second that I shared the results for those that weren't watching on like, that weren't watching SmackDown, a lot of people were just like, what the hell? What the hell? How is Toni Storm already eliminated? So, it's not necessarily the best. This also was Zelina's second win since she returned over to WWE. So there you go. Toni Storm officially eliminated, and Zelina Vega is moving on. So we got a super chat from Brandon Rosen. Thank you so much to Brandon, who says, Carmella and Zelina Vega moving on in the tournament had me shocked and dismayed. When will Liv Morgan and Toni Storm catch a break? So I think in terms like right now for Toni Storm, it's more, like those are both two women that I think that, given the fact that they're so popular with the fans, especially Liv Morgan, the fans want to see them succeed. But for Liv Morgan, I almost feel like they're kind of in different situations. A very similar situation, but also very different. Toni Storm, we just need to see her on TV, like, period. We don't even get to see her. Like I just mentioned, we've really only seen her twice on SmackDown since she came to the roster. And then for Liv Morgan, it's more of the situation of, we're starting to see her more on TV. Okay, great. That's fine and dandy. But we've been wanting to see her in a legitimate storyline. We had that for like a split second with her and Sonia, and that turned out to be nothing. People wanted her to win the Money in the Bank. That didn't pan out. And then afterwards, she was sort of just forgotten about. So it was kind of one of those situations where like, she's going on TV, but they're not giving her anything. They're not doing anything. She had this, and we haven't even gotten into, I might as well go into this match now. We have Carmella versus Liv Morgan. They're in the first round match for the Queen's Crown tournament. And this match was a total of 1 minute and 33 seconds. 1 minute and 33 seconds. So Carmella defeats Liv Morgan in less than 2 minutes. And this includes with her putting on her mask and all of that. So she locks Liv in a submission. I thought it was going to be over from here, but then she ends up kicking her in the face. And that is how she gets the win. To be honest, this does not make sense whatsoever in terms of storyline, because I went back and obviously I already, recently we saw Liv Morgan defeat her at Extreme Rules, right? We saw that. Prior to that, she had defeated Carmella multiple times, and I wanted to double check and see, okay, how many times has she defeated Carmella? So Liv Morgan has wrestled Carmella in a singles match 4 times. She won 3 of those matches, and that's not including tonight's match, because tonight's match would make it 5 matches. And so she won 3 of those matches before. So now the second that there's stakes, the second that there's something to actually win, to actually gain from winning the match, is when she actually loses. To me, that doesn't make sense, because she should be going into this match already knowing what to expect from Carmella, given the fact that she's already been in the ring with her multiple times and has beaten her multiple times. So this did not make sense whatsoever, and just made Liv Morgan kind of just look like a nobody whatsoever. And now they're pushing this like new mask on Carmella, okay? The story here is that, she wants to protect her face. She wants to keep herself protected and look beautiful and all of that, because she's the most beautiful woman in WWE. Okay, I get that. But I've been sensing now, though, that the second she's started wearing the mask, now she's picking up wins. So it's like, okay, she's using it for protection, but now she's picking up wins with it. It's like the mask doesn't have superpowers. So it's kind of... it didn't make sense to have Liv Morgan lose in this situation. I mean, unless they're taking Carmella all the way to the finals, I don't understand why they had Liv Morgan lose here. So that was a little bit disappointing. And again, that was a total of 1 minute and 33 seconds. So when you have the 2 minute 30-second match, and then the 1 minute, not even 2 minute 30 seconds, 2 minutes and 13 seconds for the first match, and then 1 minute and 33 seconds for the next match, you're looking at like under 4 minutes of women's wrestling action that we got here today. So that is a little bit astonishing, and a lot of people were not necessarily all of that pleased with that. And we got a lot of people here, basically. This is a comment from Edwin Pacino, who says, this one messed me up. Totally expected Toni to win. Eric Desire says, Toni Storm out. I can't possibly care about this tournament anymore. And yeah, somebody's pointing up that the women got under 5 minutes. Definitely. We got a super chat from Christopher Marino. Thank you so much to Christopher, who says, rant time. Okay, Christopher's going to go on a rant. Here we go. He says, quote, rant time. This BS they are doing with Liv is so infuriating. After last week, I was so angry. Then this week was even worse. I hate it. I stopped watching. Hope everyone is prepared for Woods to lose and Joe Gacy to beat Ciampa. F me, says Christopher Marino. Okay, I will be honest. Like, I'm not this level angry. I'm not at this point. Like, when I go on a rant, I will go on a rant. I'm not there right now with this. Like, I really am not. Part of me expected a legit tournament. I was actually expecting, maybe more than a 2-minute match, maybe more than a 1-minute match. I was expecting more, and I was expecting. I don't know what I was expecting. I was just expecting something that is not what we saw here tonight. I think that the amount of respect and attention that is paid on the men's side for the King of the Ring, I think that that's been perfectly okay. It's been perfectly fine, whatever. But it should be the exact same thing for the women. And there were a couple of segments that we got today that I think could have been drastically cut down or completely axed out of the show to at least give a little bit more time to the women, considering that this is supposed to be a major tournament for the women, period. So, it is a little bit disappointing for sure. But thank you so much to Christopher Marino for sending in this super chat. And this is a comment from Mac Hensley, who says, I feel bad saying this, but I don't care who wins Queen of the Ring. I love women's wrestling, and WWE has amazing wrestlers, but I don't know if we'll go anywhere, so I don't care. That's the problem. Unfortunately, because of the booking and the, what we've been seeing with the women's division, it makes people not care. So even when the women do go out there and they put these stellar performances on, it's like they really got to work to get the crowd, because, we've sort of been conditioned to not care about some of the matches that we're seeing because we know they're going to be 1 minute, 30 seconds, or we know they're not going to mean anything. Like, look at one of the big topics that we were just talking about, last week or this week, when it was about, Tegan Nox and Shotzi Blackheart. Like, they got all of these wins against the women's tag team champions, and then they never even got their title shot. So it's one of those situations of why do I care? Why do I invest if there's never going to be any sort of outcome? Like, why are we watching? There needs to be a reason. And so I think that's been an unfortunate thing, because it's taken people out of it. And that's pretty much what I want to get at here. And this is a comment from Lenny, who says, Zelina literally spent the first month losing. Tony's gone from NXT UK Women's Champion to afterthought. And yeah, that's the unfortunate part, that she's gone in to essentially be an afterthought. But I'm hoping that, see, this is my thing. I'm still very optimistic. So, what, paint me like a clown, put egg on my face, man. I have to be hopeful. If I'm not hopeful, then I'm just going to be bitter watching the show. And I don't want to be that person. I want to enjoy the show. And there's a lot of great stuff on the show, but there needs to be, I want to have hope. I do. And I want the women's division. And I know we're just talking about SmackDown right now, but I want the women's division as a whole to just improve. So let's go through a couple more comments, and then I'll go ahead and jump into our next topic here. And let me see what else people are saying. I want to make sure I get as many possible comments here. And this one is from Mac Hensley, who says, but Denise, Seth needed to call out Edge for 7 years. Where are the women supposed to go on the card when we can listen to a very nasally voice? Okay, so here's the thing. Let's talk a little bit about what they could have done differently. So looking at the show, okay, we had a very long promo with, Roman Reigns and the Bloodline and Paul Heyman and all of that. Now, I'm going to let that one slide, because Roman Reigns is Roman Reigns. So he is a top draw, and he is the champion. So I'm going to let that one slide. Keep it, whatever. Okay, Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss. Why did we need to see this? Who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares. I mean, if there's somebody here who legitimately was looking forward to Happy Corbin and Madcap Moss today, I would be shocked. I would be shocked, because nobody cared about this. Happy Corbin comes out with Madcap Moss. They're announcing their award-winning talk show. And Kevin Owens comes out and attacks the both of them, but then they both get the upper hand and attack Kevin Owens. Given that today, the thing that was promoted was the tournament, you X that out and you can give already more time to the women. Bam, right there is something that you could have taken out of the show to go ahead and give them more time. All right, another thing that I think that they could have probably trimmed down just a hot second here. So we have Seth and Edge. So I like the way that this closed out the show with essentially Edge challenging Seth Rollins to a Hell in the Cell match. That's perfectly fine. But we took a while to get to this. We had Seth Rollins coming out and essentially cutting the exact same promo that he's been cutting for weeks on Edge. It is the exact same thing. He wants people to know that he is not Edge light, and that's what we've been getting every single week. Then Edge comes out, he rolls in his car, he gets out of his car, he's pissed off, he comes out, he attacks Seth Rollins. Cool, I liked all of that. Once he started the attack on Seth Rollins, he literally chokes him with the, he throws him on the commentary table. Seth Rollins gets tangled in with the cords, so he gets choked with the cords and all of that. All of that was great, and then he snaps, and then he challenges him to a Hell in a Cell match. Cool. I liked all of that. Perfectly fine. But they could have probably gone into that a lot faster. So just to kind of speed up the show a little bit, I would have definitely taken out that Happy Corbin, Madcap Moss segment, honestly. And then, all right, so some other things that we need to talk about in terms of SmackDown. We did have Sonia officially telling, and this is the thing, so a lot of people do not even think that this match is going to happen, so we'll see if it legitimately happens. But Sonia tells Naomi that she's not worthy to be in this tournament, and Naomi's just like, dang it. So finally she gives her a match, and she says that next week it's going to be her, Sonya Deville, versus Naomi. And now I really hope that we do get to see this match. And given the fact that they're really amping up this FS1 show, and that apparently it's going to be like a supersized show where it's like over 2 hours. So it's going to be 2 hours and a half, which means half of the last half hour of SmackDown is going to go head to head with AEW Rampage next week. So they are definitely like packing up the show. So I do think we are going to see Sonya Deville and Naomi, but there's a good chance that they'll probably make some sort of swerve where we don't actually see that match. But we're finally getting something with, at least with Sonya and Naomi. And Sonya, as you guys all know, the last time we saw her wrestle, the last time we saw her in the ring was back at SummerSlam 2020, which feels about like a zillion years ago. Even though it's just a little bit over a year ago, it feels like forever ago. That's when she lost the Loser Leaves WWE match to Mandy Rose. And as we all know why she had to do that. But I'm hope that we do get to see her back next week, because I'm really ready to see Sonya back in a wrestling capacity versus the general manager, corporate capacity that she's been doing on the show. I'm kind of been done with that. I'm ready to move on here. So I'm excited. Hopefully they do it. Do not swerve me, guys. I want to see Sonya versus Naomi. I'm looking forward to this next week. But we got a lot of people here basically saying that it smells like a bait and switch. And this is a comment from Eric saying that he bets Naomi's going to get jumped before the bell and that the match will not happen, or then it goes 30 seconds to a DQ. Well, probably I could definitely see the DQ happening, because DQs happen all the time in WWE. And also I'm assuming they're going to want to keep this going for quite some time. So we'll see. And yes, for those of you guys who are asking why the show is going to be on FS1 and why they're essentially, doing all of that, it is due to the MLB playoffs. So FYI, that is the reason. And I see a lot of people here in the chat talking about it. So that is true. All right. And let's see. Did I go through everything already on this show? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh, yeah. Yeah. They also announced Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch for the FS1 show. They're going to go head to head as well. And that's pretty much it, guys. That's all of SmackDown. Hold on. Oh, finally, it took me half hour to get through SmackDown. Let's do this. That makes me happy, because usually the first segment, I tend to go way too long, and I've been trying to trim it down. This is the first time I've done Half and half. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into AEW Rampage. But before I do jump into Rampage, I just want to remind you guys all that I am live 3 times a week on here. On Tuesdays, I'm live to talk about NXT, and NXT has been sort of a wild ride, guys. It's been a wild ride. There are people that sadly have lost a lot of interest, and that's not been great. It hasn't been great. I've been really a little bit bummed out about the outcome for NXT, and that's been like a whole conversation within itself. But still, if you guys want to chime in and find out what is going on NXT, that's my Tuesday show. And then Wednesdays is my AEW Dynamite show. That is my most popular show of the week. And then next week though, oh wait, I almost forgot. Okay, so Wednesday, there is no AEW Dynamite. Friendly reminder that it's on Saturday, so I will not be here on Wednesday. My bad, guys. It's going to be on a Saturday. So check back on YouTube or check my Twitter page to find out exactly when I'm going to go live for that, because I have a show and I'm going to be in Las Vegas. So there's a whole lot going on. So I will not be here on Wednesday the way that I normally am, but I am going to be here on Friday to talk about SmackDown and AEW Rampage. So we'll get that all settled here. But we got a super chat from Brandon Rosen who says they also announced Hit Row debuting soon. Well, for a second, I was going to say like, oh yeah, Hit Row's coming soon. But I was like, they're already coming soon. October 22nd is when the draft officially takes effect. So they could be like, yeah, coming soon on October 22nd when the draft takes effect. So thank you so much to Brandon Rosen for sending this in. And yes, Pomi, we did talk about Hell in a Cell. Let's go into that a little bit more. So as I mentioned, earlier, Edge did challenge Seth Rollins to a Hell in a Cell match. And as we all know, the last time we saw Seth Rollins in a Hell in a Cell match, that was very controversial. I should know. I was there. I lived it. I experienced it. The funny part is that, God, where did that Hell in a Cell show? God, I was there and I forgot what. Oh, Sacramento. Yeah, it was Sacramento, right, guys? Hell in a Cell 2019, Sacramento. Yeah, Sacramento. Wow, I forgot. And I was there. Oof. Anyway, so Sacramento. That was in Sacramento. And the funny thing that I thought was kind of hilarious was that Seth Rollins got this challenge, and they were also in Northern California today, but in San Jose. I don't know why, but that felt kind of symbolic to me. Whatever. Felt symbolic to me. All right, guys, let's go ahead and move on to AEW Rampage. Let's do this, everybody. Let's get into this show. All righty, here we go. Let's kick things off with CM Punk versus Daniel Garcia. And before we do, we did get a super chat from Heidi Ho, who says, it's been a long time since I thought Raw was the best wrestling show of the week, but I think it was this week. Every Friday I do my picks and I just decide which show I think is best. So I am going to go ahead and decide, I am going to go ahead and think about that probably after the show, because I like to go back and look at all my notes for the week. And that's essentially how I decide which show was the best and which matches I like the most. So I'll probably do that after this show here. And then someone else says that I forgot about Roman Reigns. Ooh, I thought I talked about Roman Reigns. Wow. Roman Reigns comes out. He comes out with the bloodline. He comes out with Paul Heyman, and he basically just asked Paul to tell him the truth. He wants to know if he negotiated for Brock Lesnar's free agency, and Paul Heyman just says, like, he's not stupid. He says, quote, you wouldn't pick a stupid man to be your special counsel. And then he promises everybody that Roman Reigns will beat Brock Lesnar at Crown Jewel, and that it's not a prediction, but a spoiler. So there really wasn't much to say there, to be honest. But thank you so much for reminding me to go over that. Sheldon Jackson says 4 Hell in a Cells in a calendar year might be a bit much. Dude, the Hell in a Cell has been a bit much the second they made it into a pay-per-view. It really did take away, in my opinion, from a stipulation that was meant to sort of really, for me, the Hell in a Cell makes sense when a feud between two gals gets so heated and it's gone so far that they legitimately have to end it in a Hell in a Cell. Now the Hell in a Cell kind of lost a lot of meaning. But thank you so much to Sheldon Jackson for sending in this super chat. All right, guys, Here we go. Now let's get into AEW Rampage. Woof. Here I was thinking I finally did a show with a good amount of time and I just messed it all up. All right, AEW Rampage, CM Punk versus Daniel Garcia to open up this match. And there's kind of a lot to be said here. So this obviously was a different I would say this is a slower paced match from what we're used to seeing on AEW Dynamite. Kind of a slow start, a slow pace, but we did get to see what I really want to get across here is that they gave Daniel Garcia so much in this match. The way that they booked this, they gave him the heat to basically show everyone that on tonight only, tonight, he was essentially on the same level of CM Punk. And the way that they did that was so that you no longer necessarily see him as an undercard guy, but as something more. So I will say that they did a huge favor for Daniel Garcia. And obviously nobody was necessarily expecting him to win. That's not even the topic at hand here. They really have been making it clear that they definitely see something in Daniel Garcia because he has literally been given opportunities to wrestle matches. Tonight we saw his match with CM Punk, in which I just mentioned he got a lot. CM Punk sold the hell for him. Like he really did. His match with Jon Moxley, he also got a lot from that match. His match with Darby Allin. So yeah, he's been taking the L's, but when you look back at like the trajectory of his time in AEW, and finally when we get to that moment to sort of catapult him into, once he just, continues getting better and once he continues becoming a bigger star, you have that history to look on to say, you know what, AEW kind of always saw something there with him. And that is definitely what we're doing. So one of the best ways that I can go ahead and describe this here is that they're also going ahead, they're kind of booking Daniel Garcia the same way that you see Japanese promotions sort of book their young guys, the guys that they think are going to be big stars in the future. They're sort of booking him in that exact same manner. And that was one of the things that became very crystal clear to me when watching today's show. Some good moments during this. We see CM Punk body slam Garcia. We see CM Punk get him with a knee strike. We see Daniel Garcia chop him and then CM Punk punches him back. They go back and forth for a little while here. Really good stuff there. And then also the other thing that I want to get at here is that CM Punk hasn't been wrestling, as you all know, for 7 years. So obviously there's going to be some ring rust, but instead of hammering it over and over in our heads and telling us over and over, hey, CM Punk must be ring rust. CM Punk must have some ring rust. He hasn't wrestled in 7 years. They're sort of showing that to us in this match because as I mentioned earlier, tonight they booked it so that it almost looks like Daniel Garcia was on his level. And so that to me was kind of like they're painting a nice little story there and kind of saying like, yeah, obviously CM Punk is going to have some ring rust, which is why somebody like Daniel Garcia was able to essentially get on his level tonight. So I did like that they did that here. I thought the storytelling was pretty good. There was also a moment where Daniel Garcia got him in a sharpshooter and CM Punk really sold this for him really well. Really good stuff there too. And then in the end, we do see Daniel Garcia tap out to the Anaconda Vice. So good stuff, honestly. Now we know Daniel Garcia is definitely one of the people that AEW is probably very invested in based on everything that we've seen them do with them so far. So guys, what do you think about this? What did you think of this match with Daniel Garcia and CM Punk? And send in your thoughts, guys. Here we go. Let's see what people are saying. And I'm going to go scroll up a little bit here. All right, let's kick it off with Leonard. We got a comment from Leonard who says, Garcia's been working a lot with big names since He's been working a lot with big names since his arrival in AEW. He's also going to be seeing Jay White on New Japan Strong coming up soon. Dude, look at him. Hell yeah. He's definitely getting those big matches here. This is a comment from Edward Gonzalez who says he wasn't a huge fan of this match. Not going to lie. Dude, you don't need to lie. Like, that's my thing. Like, if you're not a fan of something, like, I feel like it's totally okay to say that because like, I'm not going to go out here and tell you, oh, this was the best match that I've ever seen. No, it wasn't. It was a perfectly fine match. I looked at it in terms of a different way, which I already explained the way that I kind of looked at this match, more so of the trajectory in which we're probably going to be seeing Daniel Garcia and the booking of Daniel Garcia. That's the way that I really saw this match versus like, versus looking at it from the standpoint of just, oh, is this a really entertaining match or not an entertaining match? I kind of did see this match in a totally different perspective than I normally do, because I kind of already knew what I was going into, and I kind of already knew what I was expecting from this match and expecting from both of these guys here. And let's see what else we got here. Let's go through a couple more comments. And this one is from Pelmy Wrestling, who says, absolutely love how CM Punk has gone from facing a daredevil high flyer to a meaty powerhouse to a technical wizard. So we are definitely, we've touched on the fact that CM Punk is working with, with the young talent. We've already touched on that. But now Pelmy Wrestling does bring up a good point that we are sort of seeing CM Punk kind of do a lot with different guys. And from the looks of it, he's going to be facing Sydal on, did they say Rampage or did they say Dynamite? One second. Let me just double check that really quickly. So we are getting that match on Rampage. So we're going to get CM Punk and Matt Sydal on Rampage next week. And as we know, Sydal has a very fast pace, high flying style, definitely different from what we saw with Powerhouse Hobbs, and definitely different from what we saw with Daniel Garcia tonight. So Pelmy is definitely onto something here with the different versions of matches that we're seeing for CM Punk here. And let's go through a couple more matches. This one's from Question the Mark, who says, I like Punk's selling and psychology. Garcia looked excellent. And Edwin Pacino puts out a great shot of Daniel Garcia doing the sharpshooter. I really like that moment. I think that was probably my favorite moment of the entire match. And also when we saw that exchange from them going back and forth with the chops and with some punches, etc. I really liked all of that. Hodge Galashi says the details and his comfort level in the ring is absurd, thinking how young he is. I think someone told me he's like 23 years old. Not exactly sure, but I think I saw somebody say that on Twitter here. We got a comment from Devin, who says, Punk is so fantastic at technical wrestling. Felt like I was dreaming when he put in a straight jacket and the crowd went nuts for it for some reason. And Drew Scott says, solid match, but the long boys got to go, though. Yeah, I definitely, I prefer the trunks. I prefer the trunks for CM Punk. I definitely do. But hey, do what he wants, I guess. Do what he wants. He can do what he wants. And let's see what else we got here. This is a comment from Carney Business, who says that the Darby match was hotter. I would say that was Punk's best match so far. Oh, well, yeah. And it was also on a bigger stage, on a bigger stage, and with an opponent that is obviously a lot more established. So yeah, I'm not even surprised by that comment whatsoever. And this is another comment from Question the Mark, who says, I really enjoyed it. I like the change of pace from the usual AEW match. Plus they had Lucha Brothers after, which was a big switch. I like the variety. Yeah, the variety is good. You got to have variety, guys. A little something for everybody. That's the thing. You got to do something like that. And thank you. Everyone confirms that, just confirming to me that Daniel Garcia is 23 years old. All right, cool. So let's go ahead and hop into a very different match, which we just kind of mentioned here. The Acclaimed versus the Lucha Brothers. This was a fun match. Not my favorite Lucha Brothers match that I've seen in AEW, but perfectly fine. This to me kind of felt like a glorified squash defense, where we did get to see the Acclaim, get a little, offense during this match. But for the most part, this was just a win for the Lucha Brothers. They ended up winning with like an assisted butterfly pile driver. So good for them. That was kind of all that I really want to say about that. But I like these types of matches, though, because one of the things we have discussed numerous amount of times is how much talent the AEW does have in the tag team division. So just kind of doing these matches and having these matches with, your champions, to me, it's a win, and it makes the Acclaim look a lot better. The fact that they went into this match with the Lucha Brothers, like I said, they got a little bit of offense in here. They definitely came out looking a lot better. And we did also have another, before we move into the next match, we got some comments here. And this one is from Andrew Cook, who says, the Acclaimed couldn't keep up with the Lucha Brothers pace. I don't necessarily fault them at that, really, because the Lucha Brothers are on a whole other level. They're on a whole other level. You just don't become the Lucha Brothers overnight. Like, that's not going to happen. So I necessarily don't have an issue with that, because I already know what level of a tag team the Lucha Brothers are, and not everybody can keep up with their pace. Like, that's just what it is, guys. That's really just what it is. And let's go through a couple more comments here. This one is from Chaotic Fantasy, who says, I feel like Rampage tries to pack in too much stuff in. As a result, a lot of matches segments end up feeling rushed. Still a good show, though. Well, they have 1 hour, though. I think for the most part, like, they've been doing a really good job of keeping the show kind of like Dynamite, where so much happens. But again, it's like literally 1 hour. So they really got to pack it in as much as they can. I don't mind it. The one thing that I would probably maybe give some other segments some more time, to be honest, I would probably cut down the amount of interviews you do with Mark Henry. Even though I don't mind maybe like 1 on the show, but I think today we might have had 2, if I'm correct. I feel like I remember seeing 2 of them. I could be wrong here, but I remember seeing 2 of them, unless I'm starting to see things here. But I would probably cut those down because those always aren't that great, and some of them go a little bit too long. So I would probably take that out. But for the most part, they do a pretty good job of keeping the pace going here. Thank you. Wrestle War confirms that there was 2. Thank you so much for reminding me that. And we got a comment from Chair Relax who says that Henry is not getting better. Bless his heart, like Mark Henry, but this is just like he's not that great in this role, guys, and that's like in a this is the nicest possible way. I think that people underestimate essentially being an on-air host, an on-air personality, and having a microphone in front of your head, in front of your hands, and like just like. He tries. He really does try, but there's something that's like missing. Like he's not connecting with the role very well. I'm surprised that we don't see Dasha do more of these, because I feel like we only like rarely see her. Like we rarely see her on Dynamite. We rarely see her on Rampage. So I do think that she would probably be better suited for this position, but I'm assuming they're just trying to find, something more for him to do. But he's kind of like, he tries. He really, really tries. Honestly, that's all I can say. He tries. And let's go through a couple more comments here. Let's get into, all right, let's, oh man, I'm just laughing at some of the comments. All right, let's get into Jade Cargill versus Sky Blue. This is a very quick squash match. We see a fallaway slam, we see a pump kick, and then the glam slam for the finish. Obviously, Jade Cargill gets the win here. She's still been racking up all of those wins. After this match, she goes to try and beat down Sky Blue, but instead we see Thunder Rosa running out with a steel chair. And so Cargill just essentially, leaves. She packs it out. She's gone. Another win for Jade Cargill. Cool. All right. Before we get into the main event, guys, I want to go ahead and talk about some of the upcoming matches that have been announced for both Rampage and AEW Dynamite. So for Rampage next week, we got Matt Sydal versus CM Punk. We got the Bunny versus Ruby Soho. We got the Inner Circle Men of the Year 6-man match. We have that's been announced for Rampage. So it's going to be a stacked Rampage. Really it is. And then we got the Dynamite show for Saturday the 16th. Once again, that is not going to be on Wednesday. It's going to be on the 16th. We got the return of Bobby Fish. As you all know, he has been officially signed by AEW. So Bobby Fish is going to go and wrestle Bryan Danielson. This should be a very, very fun match. We're also going to be seeing the Lucha Brothers defend the AAA tag team titles against a surprise team from Andrade El Idolo. Apparently, they might be his friends. I don't know. We'll see what happens. And then we're also going to be seeing the brackets for the World Title Eliminator Tournament. Those will be revealed on the show. Alrighty, guys, here we go. Let's get into the main event. So the main event of the night, we had the Philly street fight. I keep wanting to say the Philly cheesesteak. Jesus Christ. I think that CM Punk promo where he was talking about the cheesecakes and the cheesesteaks really, really stuck in my brain because I keep wanting to say Philly cheesesteak. Dang. Philly street fight. The FTW bout on the line, Ricky Starks versus Brian Cage. This has been a long time in the making. A long time in the making. As we know, several injuries got in the way, so much that prolonged this story. This was a pretty fun match. This was a perfectly fine little main event that we got here. Some of my favorite parts were essentially seeing Ricky Starks like jab Brian Cage with the pool cue. I thought that was pretty interesting. We see Starks essentially like throwing a tantrum and hitting like Brian Cage in the butt with the lead pipe. I thought that was pretty funny. We see the involvement of both Hobbs and Hook. We see them both get involved here. We see Starks get busted open after colliding with a chair. And in the end, we do see Starks essentially pinning Brian Cage and retaining the FTW bout. So I'm excited to see how they're going to go in the direction with Rick Starks, what they're going to start doing with the FTW bout. I am very interested to see what they're going to do next there in that picture. I'm just about ready to move on from this Brian Cage, Ricky Starks thing. Like I said, it's been a long time, to the point where I was kind of just like, all right, let's get it over and done with, and that's it. So that's kind of how I felt about that. But let's see what we got here, guys. Send in some comments here. We got one from a VL Kimo, who says that Taz was very funny on commentary. He made a funny joke about, God, I forgot what match it was. I think it was during the Lucha Brothers match. He made a joke about his highlight reel and that being his highlight reel, and then nobody in commentary got it, and there was like this like lapse where everybody was just like quiet and nobody said anything, and then finally they kind of like laughed about the fact that they didn't get his joke right away. I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, Taz has been really great. The Cooge 97 suggests the Philly cheesesteak fight. God. Let's see what else we got here. Let's get through a couple more comments, and let's see. This one's from Carney Business, who says that this feud needs to move on already. I hope this was the blow off. I hope so too. It's time to move on, guys. It's really time to move on. And we got people saying that Brian Cage needs some friends. He needs some backup. I don't know. I mean, Brian Cage seems to be he's not the one I would necessarily say needs a backup, but yeah, all baby faces should at least have, a friend. And this is a comment from Haj Gulashi, who says, for as long as this has been going and being a street fight, this match didn't feel heated enough for me until right at the end. It took a second to really get invested in it. I see what you mean. It's not like you just can't like throw weapons in there and expect for everybody to be interested. You got to get us to be interested. But they eventually did. And that closing visual with Ricky Starks like bleeding from his face and, holding up the FTW bout, that was a really nice visual as well. And I think we got just about everything, guys. There you go. What's up? We got it all. That was SmackDown, the King of the Ring, the Queen's Crown tournament. That was AEW Rampage. A lot of 3 hours wrestling in 1 hour, and we did it. All right. So, some shows that I got coming up. I will be back again. Reminder, next week, Tuesday, Friday, and Saturday, because once again, this Wednesday, AEW Dynamite will not be airing. Instead, it will be airing on Saturday. So do not forget. I'm probably going to forget, but you do not forget. Other than that, that was our show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank you guys so much for tuning in each and every single week. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to F4W Online. And then afterwards, if you guys can, please do me a favor and give this video a like. Leave a comment in the comment section below so that this video can get recommended to more viewers and more people can check out the show. Just helps keep the show growing, and hopefully, we get more people coming in here, and it'll be fantastic. Other than that, make sure to subscribe, follow me on Twitter at _ Denise Salcedo, and also make sure to follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/Denise Salcedo. On Monday, I am going to be interviewing an AEW talent. I won't say who. I'll let it be a surprise until that happens. So that's going to be happening on Monday, and then I'll be posting up that interview on Monday. So all of that is coming up. Alrighty, everyone. I hope you guys have an awesome weekend, and I will see you guys on Tuesday. Bye, everyone.